Hello and welcome to Nursing Home Medicaid in 20 or less. This tutorial is just designed to give you the basic information of the eligibility requirements for Nursing Home Medicaid in Wisconsin. Now, to get us started, talk about what is Medicaid. Well, on the DHS website, it says Wisconsin Medicaid is a joint federal and state program that provides high-quality health care coverage, long-term care, and other services. Now, when it comes to nursing home care, it's actually called institutional Medicaid. So long-term care coverage for people who are age 65 or older, are blind, or have a disability, and have been living or expected to live in a medical institution for at least 30 days in a row. A medical institution would be the nursing home. A couple of disclaimers right off the bat. First of all, this is a combo federal and state program. The information in this tutorial is for the Wisconsin Medicaid long-term care program only. If you're watching this in Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, or any other state, you're going to have your own unique requirements. Viewing this video does not establish a lawyer-client relationship between the viewer and myself as an attorney. You got to pay for that. And this is just an introductory video. I'm not going to be making anybody an expert in this topic. It's a very, very complex area of the law, our Medicaid qualifications. You should definitely seek expert advice before moving forward with any Medicaid planning. In other words, talk to an experienced long-term planning attorney. This is how nursing home Medicaid works in a nutshell. So Medicaid contracts with a nursing facility, and it will say, we'll pay you at a certain rate for every resident that you have that is on Medicaid, and that's usually lower than the private pay rate, usually significantly lower. The resident who's on Medicaid, all of that person's income goes to the nursing home. Most of it, we'll say. Actually, most of the income goes to the nursing home, and Medicaid will cover the shortfall. So, as an example, let's just say that Medicaid has contracted with Shady Pines Nursing Homes, and the monthly rate for Medicaid residents is set at a firm $7,500 a month. It varies depending on what the individual needs, but let's just say that it's on average $7,500 a month. So Martha, a resident, is on Medicaid, and her total personal income is $2,500. Now, not all of that goes to the nursing home, but just for example, we'll just say that it's all going to the nursing home, which leaves a shortfall of $5,000 a month. Medicaid picks up that shortfall. But not everybody is eligible. First of all, as stated at the beginning, you got to be 65 or older. You have to be blind or disabled and living in a skilled nursing facility for at least 30 days. And there are very stringent asset limitations. Not everybody can get on it. There is an asset cap that everyone has. And it depends largely on what that cap is. It's going to depend largely on whether you are single or you are married. So it's looking through the eligibility requirements from here. We're talking mainly about assets and a little bit about income, starting with single individuals who are looking to become Medicaid eligible. All of the individual's income from any source goes to the nursing home except your health insurance premiums. That would include your Medicare Part B premium, any Medicare Advantage plan premium that you may have, any Medicare supplement plan premium that you may be paying. They disregard that. They want you to keep paying that, and you get $45 a month as a personal needs allowance. Everything else that you earn as an individual, income from any source, has to go to the nursing home. Now, when it comes to assets, this is when it really gets stringent. Typically, a single Medicaid recipient may only possess as assets, you can have a home, you can have one vehicle, personal property, so what you have in your house, in your garage. I'll get into this more in a little bit. And some miscellaneous assets, which I'll cover in a little bit. So taking these one at a time, and a maximum of $2,000 in additional assets. And I'll explain what that means in a little bit. So as far as your home, you don't have to spend down your home if you declare your intent to return home. It doesn't matter how unlikely it is that you're ever going to come back and live at your house. As long as you state that your intention is to return to your house, they will be hands off it at least during your lifetime. And the house cannot be valued at more than $750,000. If it is, it's not going to be an excluded asset. So for a single individual, it's got to be $750,000 or less. Any other real estate that you own in this state or any other state has to effectively be spent down, meaning you have to sell it and then spend down the proceeds in a valid way. Now, there's some nuance to that we're not going to cover in this video, so I would encourage you to inquire more about this with an experienced Medicaid attorney. As far as your vehicle, one vehicle of any value can be excluded when you are on Medicaid. As long as it runs, then it can be excluded. Now, a vehicle, as they define it, is any motorized vehicle used primarily for transportation per se, meaning that the purpose of the vehicle is to take people from point A to point B or to transport them. This is straight out of the Medicaid eligibility handbook. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, snowmobiles. Okay? If the vehicle takes you from point A to point B and essentially doesn't do anything else while you are riding on it, if it's just there to transport you, that counts as a vehicle. Riding lawnmowers, they mow the lawn. They don't count. Tractors would not count for this because of the work that it would do. It would also not count for additional reasons that I'll explain in the miscellaneous assets. Personal property, everything that is in your home and in your garage is exempt as long as it's not a vehicle and it's not held as an investment. So if you are an art trader, you purchase a piece of art waiting for it to increase in value before you sell it, those items of investment like art or rare baseball cards, jewelry that you hold as investment, they are typically not excluded. Miscellaneous assets for single individuals. You can have prearranged funeral and burial services. Sometimes these are called a burial trust. You set those funds aside and they will be hands off. Life insurance, as you'll see here, total face value of all your policies when totaled up cannot equal greater than $1,500. I don't think those policies even exist anymore. This must be an old rule. Your business and the assets needed to operate your business. So here I said tractors. If you have a farm and you have a tractor, then they're going to be hands off. If you even have actually vehicles, if you have a truck used primarily for your business or vehicles used for your business, they will let you continue to possess those assets. Certain single premium immediate annuities. Most annuities are going to be included and you have to spend them down. A certain very specific variety of single premium immediate annuities are not considered assets. They would just be considered an income stream. Odds are, if you have an annuity, it's not one of these. And as I mentioned earlier, $2,000. That's the maximum amount of additional assets that a single individual may have. Now, it's usually cash. So usually there's a bank account set aside for the individual and they put in up to, but no more than $2,000. But it could be any other assets that, if you tally up, would not equal more than $2,000. But usually, 99 times out of 100, what we're talking about here is a bank account. So here's an example. Andrew, a single man, enters a nursing home. He owns a house, and we'll say it's under $750,000. A cabin that's valued at $80,000. A car, a boat that's valued at $15,000, an IRA that's valued at $200,000, and bank accounts which total $10,000. So excluding the house, we'll see that we have $305,000 in additional assets, excluding the house and excluding the car. $305,000 in assets. So in order to become Medicaid eligible, Andrew will have to spend down his cabin, his boat, his IRA in total, and bring his bank accounts down to $2,000, meaning he's spending $303,000 out of his $305,000. to bring himself down to Medicaid eligible. So that's for single individuals. But when you look at married individuals, the rules are very, very different. First of all, let's start with income, because they presume that there are probably two sources of income. The community spouse, which is the spouse who stays at home, not in the facility, can keep all of his or her income, every penny of it, regardless from the source. The institutionalized spouse is what they call the spouse that's in the facility, pays all of his or her income to the nursing home, save for the deductions that we talked about, the $45 a month personal needs allowance and the amount for health insurance. But if the community spouse's income is not significant, then he or she can siphon off some of the institutionalized spouse's income over to raise it to at least, right now it's $2,818.34. I don't know why they get that specific, but it could actually be more. When it comes to assets, everything here on the left-hand side of the screen is the same as for a single individual, with some nuance. So again, you can keep a house, one vehicle, all the personal property, the miscellaneous assets that we had spoke of, and $2,000 of additional assets for the institutionalized spouse. Plus, you can keep the entirety of the community spouse's qualified retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and the like, and additional assets, which can total up to, right now, it's almost $130,000, $128,640. So let's talk. So the house, getting back into it, as long as the community spouse is living at the house, it will be preserved. It doesn't matter if the institutionalized spouse ever states an intention to return to the house. It will be preserved, and you can forget about that $750,000 cap. They disregard it. Regarding vehicles, personal property and miscellaneous assets are the same for a single Medicaid recipient as it is for married Medicaid recipients. So one vehicle between the two spouses, all personal property that's not held as an investment. Funeral and burial services could be done for each spouse, and actually more so than that, but I won't cover that here. Minimal life insurance at $1,500 for each spouse, all the business assets, and the single premium immediate annuities. It's the same. The community spouse's retirement accounts. So all qualified retirement accounts of the community spouse are exempt. IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and the like. Roths as well. So aside from a $3 million house, if the community spouse has a $3 million IRA, the institutionalized spouse could still be on Medicaid. Community spouse asset share. So as I mentioned, the community spouse can keep additional assets that can total in value up to, right now, $128,640. That goes up every year. How they arrive at the number is the Medicaid determines by the CSRA, the community spouse asset share, by compiling the value of all the additional assets. So not the house, not the vehicles, not the community spouse's IRAs. All the stuff we talked about earlier. They take a look at everything else and they chop it in half. And that's going to be the number, minding that there's a floor. You can't go below $50,000 and you can't go above the $128,640. So this right here is from the Medicaid eligibility handbook right now. So if your additional assets are greater than about $257,000, then you could only keep the max of $128,640. If they're less than $257,280 but more than $100,000, then you can keep exactly half. So if your additional assets total $180,000, chop that in half, then the additional assets that you can, the community spouse can possess is $90,000. Now, if it's $100,000 or less, then it's $50,000 is the floor. So if the additional assets are $80,000 in total, chop that in half, you get down to $40,000, but you can keep up to $50,000. Now, if your additional assets are less than $50,000, then you keep all of it. So here's an example. Boris and Natasha are married, and Boris enters a nursing home. Boris has a monthly income of $2,500. Natasha has a monthly income of $2,000 flat. They have a house, a cabin, of $80,000, a car, a boat of $15,000, Boris's IRA of $100,000, Natasha's IRA of $100,000, and bank accounts of $10,000. I don't care how much the house is valued at, because it doesn't matter. It could be $75,000. It could be $7 million. It doesn't matter. If you notice, every other asset, though, is the same as Andrew's assets from the single individual. It is the exact same amount. We just divided up the IRA total from one person to two persons. So instead of $2,000 that Andrew had, we have $100,000 for Boris and $100,000 for Natasha. So first, looking at the income. Natasha can keep all of her income, all $2,000, and may take at least $818.34 a month of Boris's income to bring her total income to at least $2,818.34. I'm not going to refilm this whole thing just because I had one mistake here. As I said, it could be more. You could actually bring this up to about like $3,200 if Natasha can show that the cost to maintain the house, all the regular costs that go into maintaining the house, are significant to a point. And then you can actually bring the amount that you can bring over from the institutionalized spouse up another couple $100. So when it comes to assets, we already said they can keep the house regardless of the value, their car, all of Natasha's IRA, and $2,000 in an account for Boris. Now the additional assets, we have the cabin, we have Boris's IRA, we have a boat, and we have the bank accounts, the $10,000 minus the $2,000, which we already set aside for Boris. That comes to $203,000. So what do? We chop that in half, divide it by 2, and we're left with $101,500 of the community spouse asset share. And so you have to spend down the other half, which means that the total spend down for this couple is $101,500. Now, so same assets as Andrew, who was a single individual, but he had to spend down $303,000 in order to become Medicaid eligible. Boris and Natasha have to spend down barely over 1/3 that amount in order to become Medicaid eligible for Boris's care. So that's as far as the basics of eligibility. But again, you are not an expert now in the field. You have the groundwork to learn more. The 3 other major topics that you should have an understanding of, or you should seek expert advice on, aside from what we just discussed today, are the Medicaid look-back period, which is a 5-year look-back period in Wisconsin for when they can see if you divested or gave away your assets. That could be a problem because you could wind up with the second point here, a Medicaid divestment penalty. What exactly does that entail? If you did give away assets or move them into a certain type of trust or sold them on the cheap, you could be penalized, so you will not be receiving Medicaid assistance for a certain amount of time, which could be a significant amount of time. And the Medicaid Estate Recovery Program. I already spoke about this earlier, that just because they leave you with something while you are still with us does not mean that it's going to stay with your family. Medicaid may come back after you pass on to recover some of the assets that they let you have during your lifetime. For more information, I keep a legal blog on my website at mcclearlaw.com where I talk about some of these topics. You can follow me or like me on Facebook, facebook.com/mcclearlaw. I share information about these, and I have a YouTube page. You have to search for McClear Law Office, and you will find educational videos about these topics and other long-term care and estate planning issues. So that brings us to the conclusion of this online seminar. Thank you very much.